Books, books. I like books. I'm gonna read them all. Hi readers, Chris here. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another start to my monthly reading vlog. I have tried to do a vlog for the past 2 months and it hasn't worked out for me. So we'll see if this month works out. And my hair is looking kind of crazy this morning because I am actually about to go to the salon to get my hair done. I have a big birthday coming up this year in September. I've hinted a bit about it in previous videos this year, but I have a big trip coming up, a big birthday, and I want to get my hair done before I do all that stuff. So this is the before. You can see I have some old highlights in here. I've got some lovely grays up here. So hopefully the next time you see me, it'll look completely different. But until then, I'm just going to talk really quickly about 2 books in this check-in. The first is Remarkably Bright Creatures. Now, I am only about 60 pages into this one, and I can already tell, I think I'm going to really like this one. We have an older woman. She has a son that's missing, I guess. She kind of has like a lonely life, and she works at an aquarium. She comes in and she cleans up. And within that aquarium is an octopus named Marcellus. And we actually get chapters from Marcellus's point of view. So every other chapter, it's like day 1000 something of my captivity. And Marcellus talks about what it's like to be an octopus that's a captive at this aquarium. So I'm very curious to see how this one goes. I have not heard a bad thing about this book. And I did have a very good friend of mine tell me that it might make me cry because usually anything that has to do with animals usually makes me cry. So that makes me kind of nervous. I don't want to cry, but we'll see what happens. The other book I wanted to talk about really quick is Bag of Bones by Stephen King. I am 75 pages into this one. And so far, I'm not like 100% hooked. We have another story about a struggling author, and King does this a lot. He does this a lot. And I get it, write what you know. A lot of his characters happen to be authors. This author is suffering from a writer's block. So he recently lost his wife like 2 years ago in a freak accident. And after his wife passed away, he hasn't been able to write since then. So I'm on chapter 6, I think. And the first 6 chapters have all been set up. They've all been set up about the main character's life. They've all been set up about what happened to his wife, about what he's dealing with, what he's struggling with. So I feel like it hasn't even really gotten into the story yet. And like 75 pages of setup, like that's a lot. That's a lot. So I have a feeling this is going to be another one of those books that is too long. But maybe the story, like maybe the plot will pick up and it will make up for that. Sometimes his books do make up for that with like exciting plots later on. But sometimes they tend to be long-winded, and I feel like this might be one of the more long-winded ones. That is my early prediction, but again, gonna have to wait and see how that one goes. So that's it for today's update. I just wanted to do a really, really quick one. I'm gonna go get changed now, put something comfortable on, because I feel like I'm going to be sitting down for a while at this appointment while they try to fix my hair, but I will definitely check in with you afterwards and let you know how it goes. And now here's some kitty to brighten your day. Oh, such a good girl. Boop. Are you going to give me any kisses today, Lola? Who's a pretty kitty? Boop. Oh, there we go. There's the kisses from Lola. Such a good baby. Such a good baby girl, the Lola. Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's now July 8th, and hopefully you can see what my new hair looks like. Oh my God. Okay. This is so exciting to me because my hair has never been this light in my entire life. Like, I've done all sorts of colors before, shades of red and dark brown, purple at one point, but I have never gone this like light. This is a blonde and I love it. I love it so much. I cannot wait to see how it looks on the beach when I go on vacation next month. So yes, I'm obsessed. Probably by the time you're seeing this, I'm sure I'll have done other videos. But yeah, so excited. Okay. So now that I've done that, time to talk about how my reading is going this month. Again, about a week in. So the first book that I want to start out talking about is Alice by Christina Henry. This is my first Christina Henry book, and I did pick up this book because of Bad over at Bad is Rad. And it's funny, like, I heard that she writes like dark fantasy. And the dark fantasy I have read so far, I don't personally feel has been that dark. However, this one's pretty dark. But it's dark in a certain way. There definitely, like, probably should be some trigger warnings in the beginning of this book. I don't want to talk about it right now because I'm still only like a few chapters in, and there could be more. So, but basically Alice in this version, in this retelling, is in a mental institute. And she's in a mental institute because something very traumatic happened to her because of this rabbit, the rabbit. Something happened to her that's very traumatic. And it involves assault. So just know that going in. But she meets this man that's also in the mental institute named Hatcher. And Hatcher is like being possessed by the Jabberwocky. And her and Hatcher end up escaping the asylum. And they basically have to travel through this city to try and find the rabbit, try and find the Vorpal sword, try and find whatever they need so that they can defeat the Jabberwocky. Now, I've already heard references to a ton of Alice in Wonderland characters here. Obviously, the rabbit, Cheshire, the walrus, what was the other one? The caterpillar. But they're all like these horrible beasts in this book. These horrible beasts that terrorize women, that terrorize young girls, which is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So I feel like this is dark in a way that's like realistic, which is interesting. I don't think I've ever read any book quite like this before. I honestly don't know if I like it or not. I don't know if I'm going to be able to say until the end, but it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting and different from things that I've read in the past. Another book that is super interesting so far is Rogue. Now, this was sent to me by the author Alex Schuler, and it also says with Kevin Weir. I am unclear based on the, description on the back what exactly Kevin Weir contributed to this book. I don't know. Maybe he edited it. I don't know, because it doesn't really say. So if anyone is an author who has worked with another author before, let me know what that means. It looks like the dedication is only from Alex Schuler. So again, I don't know what the other person's contribution to this book was, but I wish I knew so that I could appropriately credit him. But this is a pretty cool sci-fi so far. We have this guy named Jonah. He used to be a reporter, and he used to report on the war in Afghanistan. So to say that he has PTSD from that experience would be an understatement. But now he works out in the Alaskan wilderness he's an oil rigger. He had a wife and 2 children, but they're very estranged because he is like so shut down in his emotions that it's hard for him to connect with these kids that he only sees like a couple times a year. They uncover a spaceship that's been buried like super below the ice. They're digging for oil. They find this spaceship. And what happens after that, like, it's going to be hard to talk about without giving away spoilers, but let's just say that everyone thinks that it's this like big deal that they found this spaceship, and so they have like a party, but the party goes horribly wrong because why would you have a party on a spaceship? But that's all I'll say for now. I'm actually really enjoying this one so far, like really enjoying it. I can see already, like, there's a lot of great themes in here about, again, about PTSD, about men and how they deal with their emotions, about a broken family, about a father trying to connect with his sons, and even just Jonah just trying to connect with other people in general. Like, there's a lot of good stuff in here, a lot of good stuff. And then we also have this super cool setting of a spaceship. So there's a bunch of characters in here. I already have a few favorites, which I'll talk about eventually whenever I review this book. But as long as things keep going the way they're going, and as long as it has a strong ending, this could very well be my favorite book of the month. Like, I'm really enjoying it that much. So, Rogue, if you're a big sci-fi fan, I don't know, I'm saying, even having only read the first quarter, I still think this one is worth checking out. And then the last book I want to talk about at this check-in, so that this doesn't go on forever, is Queen of Shadows, Sarah J. Maas. I've said it once, I'll say it again, and I'll probably keep saying it as long as I'm reading these books. Continue to be a surprising delight. I have liked every book in this series so far. I don't anticipate that Queen of Shadows is going to be any different, but at this point in the story, our main character, she's come back to the kingdom that she left in the previous book, but because there's no magic in this kingdom, she doesn't have any of her abilities, and she comes home to find out that the king, the big bad, has stolen her cousin. Her cousin is a captive of the king, and the king is planning to execute him in this very public, like, celebration because he's laying a trap. He knows that she's come back. He knows that she's going to want to rescue her cousin, and of course he wants to capture her, so he's going to put out the cousin as bait. And of course, she's like, well, I'm going to take the bait, but I'm going to do one better, and I'm going to rescue my cousin anyway and not get caught. So that's kind of like what's going on in the beginning of the book. Like, the whole first chunk is basically kind of contained around this execution and saving her cousin and all this stuff. But of course, you know, a lot has happened since she left in the last book. A lot has gone on. The people that have been left behind have been suffering through all these various things, and I just find all of that stuff so interesting. Now, the one thing I didn't particularly like about the previous book was all the stuff with the witches. And once again, there are a ton of witch chapters in this book. Not only are there a ton of witch chapters, but we're getting even more, even newer witch characters. And I'm like, I feel like it's getting to the point where I am going to need a flowchart if there are any more characters, because this is reaching like Wheel of Time level characters. It's crazy. It's insane. And again, because I don't really particularly care for the witch stuff, I'm like, ugh, why do we need like another character in this side plot? But again, I have been told that the witches become important, so I remain open to having my mind changed. But for now, I'm still going to say I don't like those chapters. Not that I don't like them, I just don't feel like they fit in with the rest of the story. Okay, that is all for this check-in. I don't think I'm going to do another check-in probably until next weekend. So until then, I'm going to go play with my new hair and get some more reading done. Talk to you later. What do you got? What do you got, Roscoe? You got a friend? You got a friend? You got a friend? Oh my goodness, what is that? What is that? You got it? You got a friend? Uh-oh, here comes Swiper.
Swiper, don't take it.
Are you going to take it, Swipes?
That's his. Make sure she doesn't take it. Swiper.
Swiper. No swiping. That's Roscoe's. No.
Here, give her this one.
Swiper, no. Here, Swipes. You can have this one. Bye, Swiper. Roscoe.
Play soccer with it.
Okay, I have lost all sense of time. I don't even know what day it is anymore, but I do know it's laundry night, so I figured while I'm doing that, I would do another check-in. I only have a couple books with me tonight, so the first one I'm going to talk about is Remarkably Bright Creatures. I'm getting really close to the end of this one, and this book is super cute. It's like, I kind of feel about this book the same way I felt about The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Like, you know, a book that just feels like a warm blanket? That's kind of what this book feels like. Although it is starting to get a little, I don't want to say frustrating, but like there is a piece of information that the characters don't know that I, as the reader, do know. It's like revealed to you way earlier in the book, and the characters haven't figured it out yet. So I'm at the point where I just want to like strangle them and yell at them, like, talk to each other. Once you figure out, like, I know, I'm sure it's going to be resolved by the end of the book, but it's starting to feel a little dragged out. So, we'll see what happens. I think our octopus, Marcellus, is probably going to save the day, which I think is super cute. Marcellus. Any book that features an animal, I mean, obviously I'm going to enjoy it in some way. So, yes, overall, I'm really liking this one. But it needs to wrap up now because I'm like, it's like giving me anxiety, the fact that the characters don't know something that I do. Obviously, that was a choice that the author made, so I really hope that it all pays off in the end. The other book I wanted to talk about is Bag of Bones, and I'm pretty sure I said this in a previous check-in, so sorry if I'm repeating myself here, but this book has been a bit of a struggle. This is definitely one of those books where I'm like, oh man, Stephen, like, this is way too long. This is way too long. Like, it's a pretty simple story. We have a guy who lost his wife. He's in this town. He gets dragged into this weird custody battle with a young girl and her daughter, and I don't know, it's really strange, and I'm having trouble with this one because the main character, I don't know, I can't remember if they specifically said that he was 40, but he's definitely around the age of 40-ish, and the young girl with the daughter, she's only in her early 20s. So there's a very significant age gap between these two characters, which is whatever, it's fine. They're both consenting adults. But the way that he fantasizes about her, like, very explicitly, and the way he lusts after her, I don't know. It's just really off-putting. It's really off-putting. And we've gotten to the point in the story where the girl seems like totally into him, and again, which is fine, but I don't know, there's just something creepy about it that's just really rubbing me the wrong way. And maybe it's just me. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just, I don't know. It's bothering me. I can't figure out another way to say it. So between that and the fact that this book is just way too long and drawn out, it's stuff. I don't think it's one of King's better books. Again, this is like the 38th King book I've read now. Like, I know the type of King books I like. This is not one of them. It's not terrible. It's just, there's so many better ones out there, so many better ones. And I think this one could have been okay if it was just reined in a little bit. But, you know, I am open to maybe it'll have a mind-blowing ending. I don't think so. My gut tells me no, but we'll see what happens. Maybe next time I check in, I'll have changed my mind. Unlikely, but you never know. Another book that I don't know how I feel about is Alice. This is my first Christina Henry book, and I like that it's a mix of horror and fantasy. I do. I like that. And like the horror parts are really horror. And this is coming from someone who doesn't read a lot of horror outside of Stephen King, so maybe someone else wouldn't find it that shocking. But I think this book is pretty dark. It is pretty dark. And definitely a lot of trigger warnings for this one. A lot of trigger warnings. But when it comes to the actual plot and the actual story, I guess it does follow kind of the Alice in Wonderland story where she just kind of goes from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. But I feel like everywhere she goes, it's like the same thing. So she goes to see the Cheshire Cat character, and he like has all these like young girls being forced to do sexual things, and then she goes to see the walrus character and he's also terrorizing young women, and then the rabbit is also terrorizing young women. And part of me is like, can't you think of something else to do? Like, can't these creatures still be terrible and awful but not all have to terrorize young women? Like, there has to be something else. So I just feel like it's a little repetitive. But again, I'm open to having my mind changed. Maybe the ending will be super great. I don't know. So again, there are things I like about this book, but there are also things that I feel like are just repetitive. Some things I feel like are just there for shock value and don't really add anything to the story. But we'll see what happens. And then finally, for my last check-in today, Together We Burn. And this one I'm really enjoying. First of all, it features dragons, which, I mean, come on, dragons are super cool. But the one thing I want to say about this book, it is a YA fantasy. So of course there's a romance, and this romance is kind of like it's not quite enemies to lovers, but it's like two characters that butt heads and then they realize they really like each other. There is a sex scene in this book that I was not expecting. I was not expecting this scene. I was not expecting it, because most YA romance is very sweet. Typically in YA fantasy, if there is any type of sex scene, it's pretty PG. Like, they allude to certain things happening, but they never really talk about it in depth. This book actually goes a bit farther than I think I've seen most YA go. And this is a YA book, but this sex scene is much more like, I'll say PG-13. It's not quite R. It's not like hardcore or anything like that, because it's still YA. But it definitely goes like way more graphic than I was expecting. And that's not to say, like, it's not graphic compared to an adult book at all. Again, this is a YA book. For a YA story, like, they mention certain body parts and they mention certain feelings and certain sounds, and I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that in this book. So it actually, like, it made me laugh a little bit, because I just felt like I was not expecting it, and I don't know, I just thought that it was really funny. It's not bad by any means. It's not bad. Like, if you were looking for a steam read or like a splash of steam, this might be good for you, because there's nothing steamy in the book at all until this one very specific scene. So that's why I was like, whoa, whew, hello, Together We Burn. Oh man, yes, there's definitely some burning going on here. Burning in the pants. Actually, if you're burning in the pants, it probably means you need to go see a doctor. Okay, back to seriousness now. Other than this sexy scene, I am enjoying this one. I think it's really fun. And again, as far as YA fantasies go, YA fantasy romance goes, I think the whole dragon aspect really makes this book special, makes it like, gives it that extra bit of fun factor. So I'm really liking this one. And it's starting to take the angle of like dragons are misunderstood. And I love when people come around on animals because ferrets sometimes have a bad rap for being a certain way, for being stinky or bitey. And the dragons in this book have reputations to, you know, being these horrible beasts. And the main character's starting to come around that maybe dragons aren't all bad. Like maybe they have some positive qualities too. So that is really speaking to me. So again, for that reason, I am really liking this one. And now I feel like I've said I'm really liking this one a bunch of times, so I'm gonna end it here. That's all for today's check-in. Honestly, this month is starting to get really, really crazy. I am leaving for vacation, not the first week of August, but the first weekend, so August 6th. So I have very limited time now to get ready for that. Work has been crazy, big trip coming up. I don't know how many check-ins I'm gonna be able to do. I'm gonna try to do one last one at the end of the month. So keep your fingers crossed I can actually get that in here. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to do some fancy editing. But for now, happy reading, and I'll see you soon, hopefully.
Get that banana. Get that banana. No, Swiper, leave it. Here's your banana. Here's your banana. There he goes.
Yeah, but no one's getting my banana.
Swiper, no. That's Roscoe's. You can't have all the toys, Swiper. You gotta share. You gotta share. Swiper, no swiping. Swiper, no swiping. Swiper, no swiping.
Okay, it's July 31st. I made it to the end, and I did want to do a final check-in for the month. Before I talk about any books, though, I wanted to share something really exciting. In case you didn't hear this, Owl Crate recently launched an adult fantasy book. I don't want to call it a book box because right now it's just the book, not any of the other goodies. And I decided to give it a try, and I just got my first one. I'm so excited. So I'm going to open this really quick to see what book I got. So again, right now it's just an adult fantasy book, a special edition that comes every month. I'm still doing the YA book box, but I thought I'd give this a try just to see what it is. And ooh, this looks exciting. I got a copy of Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong, and wow, this cover is definitely different than the original one. Yeah, it's right here. You can see the original, like, published, ooh, that glare is bad, is on the bottom, and then the one that I got is on the top here. Very, very cool. And on the back it says, "There are no gods in this world, only kings and tyrants." And as you can see, there are super pretty teal sprayed edges. Very pretty. And I'm assuming there's something cool on the inside. So let's see. Oh, okay. There's not. Normally, Owl Crate does reversible dust jackets and like foil stamping, but it's naked. The hardcover is naked, and there's no reversible dust jacket. So that's kind of disappointing, but I mean, the sprayed edges are cool. I definitely had this book on my list for, what was it, July book releases. So I'm really excited that I got a copy of it. I don't know when I'm gonna get around to reading it, but again, super excited that Owl Crate is now doing adult fantasy, and hopefully I continue to get fun additions from them. So now that that's done, I'm just gonna do like a quick 60-second-ish wrap up on the books that I finished this month. Starting with Immortalized in Ink, which I realize I don't think I've talked about in my vlog, but I actually started this book back in the beginning of June. It's a book of poetry, and I read a poem a day. And as you can see from all the tabs, there's quite a lot to talk about in here. So I really like this one. I'll talk more about it when I do my wrap up and then eventually some sort of a review. Remarkably Bright Creatures. I did not end up crying at the end of this book. I did get a little teary-eyed and a little misty, but I did not cry, but I did end up really liking this one. I know in a previous check-in I said I wanted to strangle the characters. They finally figured it out, of course. That was a little predictable, but it's a really cute book. It's a feel-good book. It's a lovely story. And if you're looking for something that's like a warm, comfy, nice read, I would definitely recommend this one. However, a book I would not recommend is Bag of Bones by Stephen King. Nothing has really changed since my previous check-ins. This book was way too long, way too wordy. It was a little creepy, and I don't know. This one just wasn't for me. Again, this is like my 38th Stephen King book now. Like, I know what type of Stephen King books I like. This is just not one of them. I don't know. Maybe someone else has read it and loved this one. This one just was not for me. Next up, I finished Alice, and I still don't quite know how to feel about this one. I still don't quite know. There are things I like about it. There are things I don't like about it. And the ending, if I'm being honest, I found the ending a little bit disappointing. Like, they just kept building up that there was going to be this kind of like final showdown between Alice and the rabbit and then the Jabberwocky and like all this stuff. And I feel like it kind of ended like that. So I feel like that ending kind of lowered my opinion of the book, which was pretty decent. Like, I was like, okay, this is pretty good, like nothing mind-blowing, but I like it. But then that ending just kind of like, it was a little disappointing. So I'm gonna have to think about this one a little bit, because I don't know how I feel about it. And another book with a disappointing ending, I'm sad to say, is Rogue. For like 90% of this book, I was really enjoying it. Just like I said in my previous check-in, like, it has a lot of great things going on in it, like a lot of great characters and a lot of great themes, and the plot is fun and fast-paced. But again, I feel like the ending was just like way too fast. Like, everything just kind of wrapped up all of a sudden. And I don't know, it felt like something was missing. Especially when it came to the main character and his relationship with his son, which was like one of the real like emotional beats of the story. Like, it was just resolved like that, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. I was waiting for some like bigger emotional payoff, some emotional moment, some come to Jesus moment, if you will. And I feel like I didn't get that. So yeah, that's a bummer. But overall, I still really like the book. It's just that ending was a bit of a bummer. What was not a bummer, though, was Queen of Shadows. Oh my gosh. I don't even know how to begin talking about this book, because there is a lot in this book. There's a lot of characters, there's new characters, there's character development, there's a ton of plot, there's more world building. Like, there's a lot that's going on in this book. And like I said in a previous check-in, we're starting to reach like Wheel of Time level. Like, there's so many different plot lines going on and so many different characters, and they're constantly introducing new characters. But at the end of the day, I like all that. I like all that stuff. So I loved Queen of Shadows. I thought this was a great addition to the series, and the ending of this book was a little mind-blowing. Like, the ending of this book was crazy. The last 10 to 20 chapters are just like super fast-paced, one revelation after another, boom, 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 in your face. Like, whoa. It was a thrilling read. Really, really like this one. Something that was not a thrilling read was Siren. I continue to struggle with the series and go back and forth. This is the 5th book in the series. The 4th one I really liked. The 4th one like renewed my faith in the series. This one lost me, honestly. Like, I don't know, 75% of the way through the book, I kind of stopped caring. I didn't really understand what was going on or like what the point of the story was. Having finished it, I'm still not 100% sure what the point of the story is. I think what the series is missing is that like through line. So every book is like its own individual contained story. There's nothing other than maybe like characters that continue from one book to the next. So it's like there's no like overarching plot, there's no overarching villain, there's nothing really that connects these stories other than the characters go on one adventure, then another adventure, and then another adventure. And I think that is missing. I think that's missing. So this book was not great for me. I kind of stopped caring. And I'm going to have a serious think on whether I want to... There's only 2 more books left in the series. I don't know if I want to struggle through them or not. I think it might be time to say goodbye. And then last but not least, Together We Burn. This is probably one of my other favorite books of the month. I don't know. It's going to be hard to choose between Together We Burn, Remarkably Bright Creatures, and Queen of Shadows. Those are probably my top 3. Although I did really like the poetry book too. I don't know. But this is definitely going to be in the top whenever I do my ranking because this book was just so much fun. It's like slightly darker than a typical YA fantasy. It's slightly more steamy than a typical YA fantasy. And it's just slightly more exciting than a typical YA fantasy. It has all of these things I feel like really help it stand out. I read a lot of YA fantasy. A lot of it seems like the same thing over and over again. And I just feel like this one has that just slight edge with slightly more exciting things. So I really, really liked this one. And I definitely want to do like a full breakdown because I feel like if you're into YA fantasy, more people need to read this one for sure. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me for the month of July. I now have 5 days to get ready for my vacation. So I'm going to go run and do that. As always, thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel for more bookish stuff coming your way soon. All right, everyone. Happy reading.